Well, you have to read the Book of Enoch, and what's interesting is you have the Ethiopian Orthodox Church that actually maintains the full canon, books of the Bible. It's just whenever you have historically people trying to hide information, it's usually for nefarious reasons, and so that's why I've been so inclined to tell people to read this book. But all that to say that I do think that it proves with this footage that if this is not foreign governments, if this is not created by us, then it does confirm what the Bible talks about of there being other creations.
When Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites.
Patrick Bet-David has on Anna Paulina, and she talks about the Book of Enoch and how she thinks that there's a correlation between the Book of Enoch and all of these alien sightings, these extraterrestrial things happening within the military. And it's fascinating and crazy, so I'm going to be giving my commentary all the way through, so make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I know we can do it with your help, so thank you so much for all the love and support. Let's get into it.
When I think of Enoch, I think about one of only 2 characters in the Bible that never died and they were taken.
Enoch would have been one of them.
Right. Enoch is one of them that was taken.
You have to read,
and it's a debate. Some say 1, some say 2, but Enoch is.
Who says there's a debate? It's pretty obvious. Like the consensus is that Elijah and Enoch both did not die
On that list.
Well, you have to read the Book of Enoch, and what's interesting is you have the Ethiopian Orthodox Church that actually maintains the full canon, books of the Bible. There's 88 in total. The Catholic Bible is even different than the modern day King James Bible. A lot of people are like, well, what's the difference? Well, you know the story. You want to get remarried, rewrote the Bible. Then you have the Church of England.
What? No one rewrote the Bible. Come on. That's so confusing. This is the problem. Like we could talk about the Book of Enoch and the significance it is and the culture and the significance it had on the culture within the first century. But to say like, oh, it was rewritten. It's so wild.
Saying that, if you read one Bible, you're not going to be able to access Jesus. That's a very personal relationship. I think that people have been able to find Jesus in very dark circumstances and they're saved. And that's ultimately what, as Christians, if you are, talking about it and being able to just say like, hey, there's salvation available, that's kind of where you lead into, right? But it's just whenever you have historically people trying to hide information, it's usually for nefarious reasons. And so that's why I've been so inclined to tell people to read this book.
Who do we have on that was debated West Huff, and it was the end of it?
Billy Carson.
What do you think about Billy Carson?
I don't know Billy Carson.
Okay.
I've heard a little bit about West Huff. A lot of people will try to say that, though, the Book of Enoch specifically is not legitimate. And I would actually argue that that's completely contrary to what the Bible sets up if you actually read through the entire thing.
You can't just say 100% that is the Book of Enoch. There's a reason why it's not in there. Yes, it was seen as a very credible source, at least first Enoch and second Enoch. But to say that it was obviously written by Enoch himself is kind of wild. There's not any evidence for it. Maybe.
See what it talks about.
Did you ever talk to Charlie about this or no?
I never talked to Charlie about this. Interesting though, Charlie did, I think, upload a video of a UAP sighting he had. And so I never was able to address it with him. But specifically on this, when my dad, prior to my dad really embracing Messianic Judaism, he kind of started looking into, we were going to Calvary Chapel, looking into how the Bible had been really changed and how the modern day church was forgetting a lot of the tradition of the past, that just because Jesus came didn't necessarily mean that you were totally to forget the previous teachings of the Old Testament. And so it's been interesting because this has provided, I think, a lot of context for why I have the views that I do specifically on these topics. But all that to say that I do think that it proves with this footage that if this is not foreign governments, if this is not created by us, then it does confirm what the Bible talks about of there being other creations. I'm not saying that these things are good or bad, right? But according to our witness statements, George Knapp allegedly smuggled out, and we admitted them to the congressional record, documents out of the Soviet Union, which I joke that George Knapp probably deserves a star at Langley for this, because how he got these documents as opposed to the CIA is interesting. But it allegedly talks about a program that the Soviet government had stood up to actually investigate UAPs because they had activated their nuclear weapons silo.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I don't know why I like to push back so much, but like, you can read the entire book of the Bible without the book of Enoch and get everything and come to the same conclusion with reading the book of Enoch. There's giants in Genesis, there's giants in Joshua, there's giants all over the Old Testament. There's the Nephilim, there's spiritual beings. There's so many things. You don't have to read the book of Enoch, you know? That's the thing. Like, I agree, like, this could be evidence for not extraterrestrial beings from from different planets, but interdimensional beings that the Bible talks about, spiritual beings.
And had almost launched missiles and then shut them down right away. And it was known as Thread 3. So those records have been entered into the archives so that people can pull them up and look at them. So it's not a question of whether or not it's happening. It's happening. The question is, what is it? And I think that that's up to people whether or not they're going to look at it from a religious or a secular standpoint.
So
wild.
That is wild.
It's a lot.
But George Knapp, it says what? He's the one that brought into prominence Bob Lazar in '89.
Yeah, so George Knapp was an investigative journalist in Las Vegas, still lives there today, works with Jeremy Corbell. He's literally one of the subject matter experts on this because of his work in journalism and what they've been able to sift through. And he testified at our last hearing. But he was not a firsthand witness to this. We did have witnesses that were firsthand witnesses to UAPs. You can actually pull up the Vandenberg Air Force Base witness testimony. He testified to us at our last hearing. We also had an active duty member of the Navy testify, and then also former member of security forces. Yep. Jeffrey Nusatelli. Yep. So we actually, the Vandenberg Red Square, that was a particularly interesting one because it appeared over Vandenberg Air Base and was about the size of a football field or more. And they actually have, if you hear the testimony, you can hear it.
All right. So this isn't fear. This isn't.
No, I think you just have to look at it through very, it puts it in perspective as to our position in the world and the universe. If there's life after death, it makes you question, is God real? I definitely think God is real. So if God is real, then it's possible that, the Bible's also a truthful document, which in that case would explain all this.
Is this it? This is
Yeah, you can hear it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
For Nusatelli, I'm a former military police officer with 16 years of active duty service in the U.S. Air Force. I'm here today because the American people have both the right and the responsibility to know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomenon. That truth remains hidden, classified and silenced by fear, retaliation, stigma, and confusion. Today, we are here to help break that silence. Between 2003 and 2005, 5 UAP incidents occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base, home to the National Missile Defense Project, a top national security priority. At the time, we were conducting launches deemed by the National Reconnaissance Office as the most important in 25 years. These were historic launches. These facilities were vital, and they were repeatedly visited by UAP. Each incident was witnessed by multiple personnel, documented, investigated, and reported up the chain of command. We sent information up, but we got no guidance down on how to handle these events. I personally witnessed one of these events and investigated others as they occurred. 6 other service members have provided me with the information that I will share with you today. The incursions began on October 14th, 2003, when Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites. After several minutes, it drifted further east onto the base and vanished over the hills. This event, now known as the Vandenberg Red Square, was referenced by Representative Luna at the first hearing on this topic.
That's wild. So he's saying that he saw this massive red square above these missile projects. So like, what if they're trying to get a lot of information from these technologies? Or is it some other government trying to get more information with their secret society and technology? Some of this seems so far out there. If it was real, like how in the world would there be that much advanced in technology? I don't know. Like, it makes you think about like the Avengers and the like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who have these crazy technologies, invisible flying machines that can, they have camouflage. But in real life, we haven't seen those yet, completely at least.
Official Air Force records of this event are in possession by Aero and the FBI. Later that night, while I was on duty, security guards at a critical launch site reported a bright, fast-moving object over the ocean. I responded to the incident. Chaos ensued over the radio as the object approached rapidly. I heard my friends screaming, "It's coming right at us, it's coming right for us, and now it's right here." Moments later, I heard them say that it had shot off and was gone. When I arrived on scene, I talked to 5 shaken witnesses who described a massive triangular craft larger than a football field that hovered silently for about 45 seconds over their entry control point before shooting away at impossible speed. About a week later, another patrol reported a light over the ocean behaving erratically. Believing it might be an unannounced aircraft, they declared an emergency, and an armed response force responded. Before the forces could arrive, the object descended and either landed or hovered on our flight line and then took off again at impossible speed.
So it landed on their ship? What? So they were thinking that there's this unidentified flying plane, and then they all gather because they think maybe they're getting attacked or something. But by the time they all get ready, it was landed on their ship and then flew off at an impossible speed. Well, where's it going? Man, there's some crazy stuff.
The witnesses to this event were threatened and intimidated afterward. They were told to keep quiet and think about what they were reporting. After that, things did get quiet.
Yeah, so that looks like, I don't know if you remember the movie Independence Day that came out in the 90s.
Oh my gosh, Will Smith, how could I forget? Welcome to Earth, he punches the alien.
That's right. That's right. So that's 6-7 years later after that. He didn't seem like a bullshit artist, this Nusatelli guy.
We do extensive background and vetting into the witnesses, and we obviously also asked for their military credentials, all of that. He also had other witnesses that could back up his story, but he's not the only one. We've heard this from many, many members of the military. Sometimes they can provide footage, or they have privately shown us footage. What's interesting is
So why can't they show us footage then? Like all of this crazy nonsense. I would love to see it. I mean, they showed us one thing.
Is that specifically with the Navy guys, this aspect of USOs, there's a lot that we don't know about the ocean. But when you're getting reports that these things are outpacing our nuclear subs by like sometimes 200 to 300 miles underwater, I don't know anything that can go that fast. So all that to say that, yes, it is of concern, right? First question is this a foreign adversary? Is this an advanced tech? But historically, there's been a lot of questions and secrecy surrounding this, so much so that you have to know it's real because of the obstacles that throw themselves in your way when you ask questions or being denied access to the information. But specifically on things that we've seen, yeah.
Well, the question becomes, can we build something like that? Like before even going in thinking, a UAP or something like, go back to that picture you had, Rob. Can we build a, whatever you want to call that? Go back to the picture that you had between the two of them. Yeah.
I think that it's like giving a caveman a cell phone. I think that our understanding of physics and what we know currently, I don't know that we have the materials or capability to develop it at that point in time. Not to say that we can't in the future, but it's just there's a lot that, even if you look at a cell phone from 10 years ago, how primitive is that? And these things are operating, against everything that we currently know. And so it's interesting. There's a lot of people from all walks of life, very successful, very wealthy, that are asking the same questions. And it's funny because, the stigma in Congress when we first did our hearing was, you're going to ruin your political career. You shouldn't be asking these questions, blah, blah, to it being the most widely attended congressional hearing in U.S. history. And then, you're now having more people come forward. But what's been interesting is we have been directly told by multiple witnesses that they don't want to testify because they're in fear of losing their lives, of which we've had other people we wanted to bring in.
Yeah, that's crazy. We got to admit that people are having some type of experiences, some type of things that prove like we're not just in some like material matter and energy, physical. There is something going on that's supernatural. Something supernatural that is from the unseen realm. Things that are happening. Makes you think, well, if this is happening and the Bible talks about this stuff, maybe the Bible's a little bit more right than I thought. That's for all the atheists out there.
They've literally said that they don't want to risk it. And then we have had an instance that happened with David Grush to where he was coming in to testify, or not to testify, but coming in to do a video skiff conference with Burleson and I. And on the way in, he had a very weird incident that happened that I've never... it's like very coincidental timing, where someone actually pulled a firearm on him as he was driving in. So, and he also too was worried about retribution. He'd been messed with extensively after he testified, even leading up to that testimony. So yeah, we definitely know that our witnesses are putting a lot on the line by coming forward. And so that would also too push for like, we need UAP disclosure. But every time we try to put it into the NDAA, it gets gutted for whatever reason.
By who?
But it's usually the staff that's taking it out for whatever reason. These like little, I call them little trouble goblins. They pop up and they'll gut the legislation for disclosure. Or
who tells them to do that?
I think it's a lot with the intelligence community, 100%, or DOD. Whoever's, it's definitely internal though, because there have been Representative Burchett tried to come up with a FAA reporting procedure for the UAP. They wouldn't put it on the floor, and then the UAP Disclosure Act was watered down and gutted. Schumer tried to push for that in the Senate, and it was like completely just rolled. So there's definitely an effort, which is why I think that this Age of Disclosure movie coming out is so important, because you have multiple people coming forward that have legitimate credentials. They can't just be like, oh, it's, Luna talking about crazy UAPs again, or Burchett or Burleson. It's, when you have the Secretary of State up there.
Something's going on. And I would love to know what you guys think. I think it's a matter of time for like a whole new reality is going to show up. Kind of like when COVID happened, like we saw the whole world completely change after COVID. Something could happen. So it's fascinating. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below, whatever that may be. Super thankful. Anyway, guys, I hope you have an amazing day. God bless. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I know we could do it with your help. So thank you so much for all the love and support. It means the world. Have an amazing day, and God bless.